Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back. And welcome back, Kate.
Hi. Feels like I've been gone for like a month.
I
Trying
know. I
to get
know.
back into the swing of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's really good to have you back, and it's good to have everybody back along with us. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. And tonight we are going to have a discussion that a lot of people have. And I belong to a few camera clubs, and there are some of those who do and some of those who don't. And that's what this conversation is going to be about. Kate and I talked about this a long time ago when we even talked about doing this program, and we wanted to talk about, is editing cheating, and or when is editing appropriate, or do I have to edit to tell my story,
Hmm.
or can my camera do it all for me? Kind of get it all in camera and tell the
Yeah.
story I want to tell. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about tonight. So I'm going to let you just talk a little bit about what you think about that because we've got some photos we're going to show, and we're going to
Okay.
talk about the photos and basically how they came to be, and the importance of some of that. We're going to talk a little bit about AI and how it is now working into the photography world. And we'll talk about some of the simple tools in Photoshop that we can take things away with, and so on and so forth. And then and then we'll base some opinions around some of the work that we've done on it. So Kate, what do you think about all this?
Well, I just to start, I love this episode already because I feel like we're doing exactly what our title says. It's our snapshots and the stories behind them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you mentioned already, like perhaps editing is the way you tell your story. And that's exactly how I think about it. I don't think there's any cheating. But the extreme of it is like, okay, if you're using it to you know fake something in a way that
Mm-hmm.
you're being dishonest, like I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, like, you have a vision, like you want to make an impression of that. I feel like editing and your camera are they go hand in hand as an art medium. I don't find it any different than, like painting or whatever. Like it just depends on the situation that you're in. Are you photographing for a nature magazine or a science textbook or something like that? I mean, yeah, I mean, you probably want to ease back on the
Yeah.
Photoshop and the AI for sure. But anyways, but it's my personal photography. I rely heavily on the edit, and I don't necessarily heavily edit. I rely heavily on the edit to get my vision across and the emotion of my photo across.
Yeah.
So yeah, and
So there's
yeah,
so well there's that side of it then. So there's the edit to create the mood.
yeah,
Then there is the edit because my camera was not capable of doing what I needed it to do to get the picture
sure.
to be. So let's see, like for example, if in your case you're storytelling, but let's say I'm a guy that's out there shooting a landscape and it's a high dynamic scene.
Mm,
So, a bright sky, mountain, maybe the sun's starting to get behind the mountain a little bit. So now we got some shadows we got to deal with. So my camera has about a 14 stop dynamic range in it.
mhm.
That's what the camera can deliver. But my eye sees about 22 stops of light in dynamic range. So the camera can't deliver what my eye sees at that time.
Yes.
So the question there is then, am I showing you what the camera's capabilities are, and that's what my weight as a photographer is? Or am I showing you what I can do with a photo to show the audience, my audience, wherever I share it,
Hmm.
that this is exactly how I saw it. These are the colors that I saw it at. And a lot of people, even now that maybe are purists, I bet you anything, they're still using HDR. They're taking three pictures, a bright,
Hmm.
a dark, and a mid-tone one, and they're blending them
Right.
together to get that whole dynamic range if they can't get it in one picture. So
Hmm.
that in of itself, uh, I think is a form of editing.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah.
So still, yeah, and and you talk too about scientific work. So if you're taking a photo to identify something, then it has to be pretty accurate. And you'll find that most either photojournalists or scientific photographers are not pretty picture takers, right? They're trying to give you an image of something that they're trying to identify or detail. So
Sure.
that's a whole other thing.
Yeah. And I think that maybe some people who are who view editing as perhaps, the cheating, or, it's not really what, not really what I saw, but they also struggle with, I can't get my camera to take the picture the way I saw it. And unlike, I didn't really know until you explained it to me, in terms I understood that the camera will never translate it the way that your eye sees it for the most part, just because it's not as, our eye is the perfect camera,
Yeah,
and the machine can't replicate that. So you will have to do some editing if you actually do want it to be, oh, this is what I saw.
yeah, yeah,
So, and I feel like
absolutely.
a landscape photo, a good landscape, well, some might say a good landscape, you don't even know what's edited. Some people may
Mhm.
look at your beautiful landscapes and say, oh, well, Paul is a purist. He doesn't edit.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It's
curious to
funny though.
see. Yeah.
You get some say, "Boys, you must have some good camera."
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, no, and like what you're saying is so true. There's so many different things to consider.
Mhm.
And in fact, my wife, when I'm editing a photo and I show her, and she goes, "Now, is that really how it was, or did you do something to change it?" So she, in her mind, is more of the purist,
Yeah.
right? And there are some people that I talk to in some of the camera clubs that said, "Oh, I wouldn't do that. If I can't get it in camera, then I'm just not happy with the photo."
It's
And
interesting.
so I'm thinking, okay, so you're sharing a lot of good pictures that could be better,
Hmm.
or you're struggling with those beautiful photos that you see, and you're always questioning them. It's kind of a
Yeah.
different outlook, isn't it?
Well, it also too is, where do you start considering something to be an edit?
Right,
You alter your shutter speed, it changes the look. You alter your white
right,
balance, it changes the look. Like, editing isn't just post processing, it's the settings that you use as well.
exactly.
So, how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go with, is it an edit?
Yeah. Well, even on top of that, before we even had digital cameras, a lot of this was done in the darkroom with dodging and burning and all that sort
Yeah.
of stuff. That all took place in the film days.
Hmm.
And you really had to know what you're doing to be able to do that.
Oh,
But
yeah.
now, with everything we have at our hands, it doesn't take a whole lot of uh, training to be able to use the software, because it really
Yeah.
is quite intuitive once you get into it.
I
So,
love, I would love to bring like an old time photographer to the
oh,
present,
yeah,
like I think it's a photography dream world right now. You can make the images that you want.
yeah,
Like
yeah, exactly.
I love technology right now, and I love what AI is doing in Photoshop and Lightroom with the ease of removal, and
Oh,
it's great. It's a great
absolutely.
time to be alive.
It is. It is. And in fact, well, let's actually show some photos. So
Yeah,
let's show yours first. So I'm going to see if I
sure.
can make that work on my screens. You just bear with me for one
Yeah, sure.
second. So actually, before I show the photo, why don't you tell them what we're going to see?
Oh, sure. So we're going to see my friend in a white dress, and she is uh, what looks like, you know, forlornly, I guess, leaning up against a tree trunk or a tree
Okay.
on the
I
bank of a river.
okay. I have the original up now.
Okay,
So I'm
great.
just I'm just going to
So,
zoom. So I'm just going to zoom in just a little bit so you can see it. There we
yeah,
go.
great. I'm just looking at it here. Okay, so this is my friend, we just jog locally around the neighborhood here, and one day we were jogging and there was a yard sale and this white dress was hanging from a tree. So we stopped and we looked at it, and it was this beautiful handmade gown from, the lady said, maybe the 1960s or 70s. And was like, oh my gosh, like I was like, I need to buy this. And, just already a shoot coming to mind, it was $10. The lady was like, $10 can be yours. So we finished our run. We came back around. I got the dress out of the tree. And then that night, uh, I put it on my friend. We went down to the river. It was the perfect misty night. It couldn't have been better. And you don't see it in this photo, but I also brought an oil lamp, and we lit the oil lamp, and she walked into the river with the dress, and we did this whole thing. But it happened so fast. Like there was no real plan of like, I need to find a white dress and do this. Literally, we were jogging. We saw this dress hanging from a tree. And like we continued to talk and jog at the same time. Like, you should wear this. We should go to the river. Anyways, so as you can see in this photo, it's pretty warm. It was a warm, like early autumn evening. Hence she was able to get into the water and that kind of thing. But my vision of this shoot was cold. I wanted it to be cold. I wanted it to be kind of like, spring and summer are dying, like that they're on their way out, in a, not in a, oh, this is death, but like a, dreamy kind of, so just kind of hanging on to the last bit. And then, just the river's going to take it away. And then the river's going to bring in the fall season.
Okay.
And that's kind of what we're doing. So I don't know if the viewers can see the new photo, like the edited one.
I'll put the edited one up now.
Yeah.
And there
great.
it is.
So you can see that I didn't do a lot of, there's no Photoshop. Oh, yeah.
Right there, I'm zooming in on it. There we go.
Okay, great. Yeah, not a lot of Photoshop. I like straightened the horizon a bit, and I really I cooled down the tones, and I played around a little bit with some of the levels of the blue and the yellows.
Yeah.
And I just really wanted it to have like a wet, cold, kind of sad, like a depressing, dreamy, but heavy on the dreamy.
Okay, I'm just going to switch back to the original.
Sure.
And then we'll switch over to the edited. And there's absolutely an amazing difference.
And some people might be like, I like the other one better. And that's fine. I'm not saying the other one was bad. Like that, I just wanted like a darker, dreamier, more kind of melancholy is the word.
Yeah. But you achieved it because you also put that into the dress. So the white dress became blue tinted.
Yeah, I almost wanted to be like she was like maybe had already been in the water, and I wanted the dress to look kind of damp and just like, just you could interpret it in so many ways, like just is she sad? Is she heartbroken? Is like what's going on there? But overall, I feel like it kind of gives a melancholy, something has ended. There's been some kind of loss.
Okay.
So yeah, and the dress didn't fit, so we just rolled it up and tied a sash around it.
We're back on. So so that's interesting then. So the editing that you did was to create the mood, but realistically, it really wasn't that much editing. When I looked at that, it was some color changes, maybe some, contrast, that sort of thing. It looked like it was softened up a little bit, and but really minimal editing, and so you captured quite an image just in camera alone. So the raw image itself was.
Thanks. I mean, you can't go wrong with the river in the fall and the white dress and my lovely friend.
So it'd be interesting to hear from some of the folks out there. You can tap in and either on our Facebook or YouTube. Just look at there's always comment section on the side, and just let us know. Was that a fair edit? Was that the right thing to do? Sure. I think it was, because if you hadn't seen the raw to begin with, you would have saw that picture. It's like, oh my gosh, what an absolutely wonderful photo.
Thanks. Yeah, I feel like it came through in the way that you liked. And if the people want to see more of that shoot, check out my Instagram at Kate Tad, KATAD, and you can see more with the lit oil lamp too, because it really added to it.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. So that's one way to edit. So that's more of a mood creating type of an edit.
Yeah, very simplistic.
And okay, so I'm going to show you a photo of just a shot from out on the river in a boat, and decided to get off the water for a reason we'll talk about. And and we'll show you, but I'll show you the original photo first. So I'm just going to bring this screen back up again, and I'm going to find that original photo. So here's the original picture that was taken. Now this is on the Kennebecasis River, and there's a little spot under this tree that you can go to get out and stretch your legs and whatnot. And as I was doing that, I looked back, and the sun, because it's early, still relatively early in the morning, so the sun had already broken the horizon, and all the wonderful fog and all that stuff with lake is gone. Yeah. And I'm left with this image, and I'm looking at it, and I'm kind of underwhelmed. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what a underwhelming image. You know, we've got virtually, when under the canopy where I was, you couldn't see anything. It was just all black. Or pretty much, you know, it's all in shadows. And then when you look out onto the water, well, you can see that there was a sun there, but it just was not captured really well. And a lot of it was because the sun, I'm shooting into the sun. So a lot of what would be vivid to our eyes is actually going to be hidden in shadows because it's backlit, right? Yeah. So, so I thought, okay, well, do I just throw this picture away? Because it's really, I don't know. And then I thought, okay, if I'm a purist, I don't know, what could I possibly do with this thing? Probably not much, maybe straighten it up a little bit and then just put it out there and say, well, isn't that a nice picture? Well, yeah, it's the river. It certainly describes everything. But what if, just one sec here. What if we colored it all up and we edited it up? So now you're looking at the color photo.
That's amazing.
And what a transformation.
Yeah.
Right? So there was one of probably many photos we would probably just throw away because it didn't come out in camera the way that we wanted it to, because some people have a natural ability to bring out a lot of really good stuff in camera. They're really good camera technicians. I'm not one of those people. I can bring out what I want in the scene, but lots of times I have to do a little bit of editing to create what my eye saw. Now, in all fairness to the camera, it was in extremely poor conditions to shoot this, but what my eye saw was way better than what the camera could ever possibly see. So,
if people who've been on the river, you know that edited photo, that's how it looks.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why it's so underwhelming when you get home, because you see, you know, the pictures that have the shadowed corners or whatever, but you're like, that was so brilliant in person.
Yeah. So that's one part of the edit. So let's talk about some of the other things that people have some issues with. So let's concentrate on, I'm going to zoom in on this part of the tree. And there's this ugly looking bark thing there that I'm looking at and thinking that I'm not sure if I like that in there. So why don't I just go ahead and take that out? And there, it's gone. Now, would anybody have ever known that I did that? No. Mm-hmm. I do. But does it bother me? I don't know. I'm going to turn back to us, and then we'll go back into this picture in a minute, Kate. So just give me a second. Where are we? Okay, we're back on. So therein lies, and we talked about this earlier, and I'll let you explain it because I told you the story, but you can tell about the flower, taking the picture of the flower.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's an interesting point. So you were talking about if you took a picture of a flower and, you know, maybe there's two blades of grass crossing it or something like that. You're in someone else's garden. Would you pluck the plants or the interfering plants around the flower to get the shot, or would you just remove them out of the photo when you get home?
Exactly.
So I personally would remove them.
Well, and that's it. So, and this actually was a true story. This wasn't my story. This was somebody else's story. But this was a true story. Somebody invited them into their garden and said, oh, please take some pictures of my wonderful flowers. And of course, he said, oh, well, thank you so much. It's just beautiful. So he got there, and the angle that he wanted on this flower was absolutely perfect, but there were two blades of grass in front of it. So were those blades of grass, or were they part of another plant? So I could take my little scissors and go snip, snip, and take my photo and then I wouldn't have altered it at all, and I would have got it all in camera, and I would have been the purist.
Mhm.
Or what's the difference if I go home, leave her garden intact so that we still remain friends, and I would just take them out and edit them out? What difference would it make?
Sure. I don't think it would make any difference at all. And like I said, like if somebody wants to come and just putting this out there, all our viewers, if anybody wants to come take pictures in my garden and remove all the blades of grass from around the flowers, I encourage you to flock to my house.
Yes, with clippers in hand.
Yeah, please.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay, but what about this scenario too? So I don't ask when I take portraits of any kind. I do not ask before I remove and smooth out skin in a very subtle way. Like I'm not going to say like, oh, it's going to look airbrushed. It's going to be so unnoticeable. But you know, I just do it. I find it's a courtesy just to give to people, just to do that.
Yeah.
And I just don't
Interesting.
ask because I just it's a I don't know. Sorry, I'll stop
So-
rambling. What do you think about that?
I'm glad you brought that up, because the shoot that I just did on Friday, it was, I said to the client, I said, look, I know you've got some bits of acne. I'll remove that for you. But I also noticed that you have some moles, which are part of who you are. So
Yeah.
in my thought of shooting anybody is, unless you ask me, I'm not going to remove something that people see you as every day, because that's who
Yes.
you are. So if you're a freckled person and I take all your freckles off, people don't know you
Oh.
without freckles, right?
Well, yeah, acne and freckles aren't the same thing. Like I
No, fair enough. But now I'm talking moles,
yes, okay.
right? Now,
Yeah.
moles on a lot of cases are like, I've got one. I got my little push button right there. So moles are permanent on a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
But lots of times when I take pictures, do self-portraits just because I'm having fun, I'll take it out just to say, oh, well, doesn't he look nice without that mole?
Oh, yeah.
But that's up to me. But I always ask the person. I know you do your that way, but I always ask. And because I did, he said to me, no, he says, I want every mole that's on me taken off.
Okay.
Right? He said, in fact,
Yeah.
if you can make my eyebrows a little thicker, and I've got a little dent in my chin, could you just maybe make that a little less noticeable? So
Funny when you ask what comes up.
right. So you don't
Yeah.
know. So if you ask, then at least when you're done your editing, you're not going to have to, you took out, there could be a scar that means something to something. Who knows, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Anyway,
draw the
that's-
line at yeah, like okay, so I don't ask for acne and I do a general smooth. If someone did have, like you said, like just something unusual like skin tags or moles or whatever,
Mhm.
I wouldn't want to risk offense by removing them. I would ask if it was something that was,
Yeah.
just not acne, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess the rule of thumb is, if it's not permanent, then you don't need to leave it there. Because if it's a sore, it's going to go away. If it's a pimple or whatever, maybe a little scratch from somebody cut themselves shaving, that's not
Yes.
going to be there typically. So I just take those out. So
I just
anyway,
did I just did a corporate shoot for a guy, and right away he was like, get rid of this. It was like a little nick, like, and it was just above his collar, like right above. You could see it in every photo.
yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
easy fix.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's it. But and so therein lies the same thing. That was the person then, but the next 2 days they weren't going to look like that. So we have to make that assumption that they're not. But there is another form of editing. And some of these most beautiful portraits that people want, the most beautiful beauty images, they want to look at their very best. So you can't do that in camera. You can do it with lighting and camera to a degree, but there are still things you're going to need to fix.
As a woman who wears makeup, and most of us wear makeup, I just find the idea of like purist funny, because we just walk around with makeup on our face. That's not how my face looks. I'm wearing makeup right now. I would never show up to the podcast without makeup.
Yeah.
So, whether it's in camera or off camera, like we all engage in some form of presentation.
Yeah.
So
We got to 25. Okay.
my
I
gosh.
want to go back to our photo just one more time, because I want to talk about just a little bit about AI. And we got about 5 minutes, so we're going to get through this one relatively quickly. But we're back to our photo. We're back to our scene where we're in the water. And you probably thought, well, I could make a story out of this because we are storytellers. And I could say, well, why am I under that tree hiding? And I'm hiding because there's a shark in the water.
Oh,
So this shark was chasing me down the river. So I made a beeline to the shore to get out of the. You can see the bubbles are still in the water from the boater. It's still running because I'm saving my life because I'm not going to get eaten by this shark.
yeah.
Obviously, that's not a true story. But the point is, with AI, you can actually put things in the image if you need to. So now therein lies that question. If I'm just having fun with it, and we see it on the internet all the time, people make up these crazy pictures and they put them out and we laugh and chuckle. But if we're doing it seriously, when is that okay to actually put something in? I'm gonna go back to us, Kate. Let me see here. There we go. So yeah, so when is it okay to actually add something to an image?
Oh, I don't know. I feel it's the intent. Are you? It's just so many different genres that it could be a different story of how it's appropriate or inappropriate. So
Yeah.
the shark, river shark. I mean, I think we're living in an age now where it's up to the viewer to do, if they're in doubt, maybe fact check, or I don't know. Like it's such a whole other topic. Like
It is, isn't it?
there's a whole genre of photography where people do put weird things in weird spots, like whales in the sky, sharks
Yeah.
in river, like, and that's a whole art form. People like that, but
Yeah.
when you're purchasing or viewing that it's fake.
If you're going to be taken seriously as a photographer, a lot of people would certainly. I get questioned all the time if I put a picture of a bird up, and it's not season for the bird. When did you take that? Where did you?
Wow.
That's what's out there. So
Wow.
I'm more of a pretty picture person, not so much a documentary person. So and I just simply say, well, this was shot back in whenever it was shot, but it was just a
Yeah.
photo that I had that I haven't taken out, like that one I just showed you. That's the first time that one's been shown because I was going through
Beautiful.
that's cool. I forgot about that. Can I revive it? Anyway, but my thought process is this: let's say you got the perfect shot. And this happened actually at the shoot. This young fella I shot on Friday was a country guitar guy, and I asked him before I came. I said, "If you're bringing your acoustic guitar, is it a high gloss finish or is it a flat finish?" And he told me it was high gloss. I said, "Okay, so if it's high gloss, then we're going to have to be careful of the light and reflections and all that stuff." So we were. But for the one thing I started to do, I said, no, I just want you to move around a little bit. I want to just try to get some different angle shots and see what we get. We got one shot like that was absolutely perfect. But his guitar was turned to the point where a section of it you could see the grid in the guitar. So
Okay.
I went in to AI and I actually just took that section out and I replaced it. And AI replaced it perfectly. You couldn't tell that it wasn't the same guitar.
Wow.
It wasn't the whole
So neat.
guitar. It was just the part that had a reflection on it. But rather than me to try to, how are you going to fix that, right? It was just too big. You couldn't clone stamp that. So, so AI in that case saved the day. So we've got his emotion, everything in that photo was just spot on, everything except for that spot. So in that case, it was my friend and it saved that shot. So anyway, we'll have to continue this conversation because
Yes.
there's just so much to talk about. But really, we want to hear from you guys out there. Hey, Kate. Let me see. So I'm just going to put up our Snapshots and Stories address
Yep.
and tell them where they can send it, Kate.
Snapshots and stories at outlook.ca.
.com.
Oh, it's a .com. See, I've been away for too long. Need to
You've been way
refresh
too
our
long.
course.
Yes,
I know.
we got to get you back. So yeah, send in your
.com.
but even more so than that, I would love for you folks to send in what you think. Let us know what you think about the conversation that we had tonight because I think it's just a great one. So anyway, so having said all that, thank you so much for watching. And again, for those out on Facebook and YouTube and Rogers TV, if you have the ability to share, please share. We really appreciate it. And for now, we got to say so long. So from Paul, so long.
Bye, everyone, from Kate. Have a good night or day, I
Okay,
guess.
and we'll see you on the next episode.